garage. It's a windy, chilly day out there. April 3rd, and not what you call biking weather yet. But I am thinking about biking. What I have here is a Harley-Davidson Compensator, identical to the one in my 2009 Road King. And these were the compensators that I guess were originally built for the 88 cubic inch twin cams. And they started putting, the factory started putting these in the 96 cubic inch twin cams that came out in 2006 in the Dynas, and then 2007 and up from for the rest of the touring and Softail line. In case you're wondering, why am I replacing all this stuff? Well, this particular compensator is identical to the one in my bike right now, and if I could start my bike up right now, you would hear that it makes an awful thrashing noise. It just clunk, clank, clankety. It sounds like rocks and boulders are rolling around inside the primary case. It is horrible.
Shut up. All right, you had to have heard that.
Harley-Davidson realized that these compensators are too weak for the 96 cubic inch motor. They were built so that there was a spring pack behind this ramp, which lines up with the primary chain gear, so that as the motor fires, this is able to absorb the shock of that piston firing. And when it kicks back like that, it's kicking back against a spring pack that was inside this one. It's been taken out. But there was a pack of coil springs. They were like plates, stacked one on top of another, and about so thick and about a 1/4 inch wide or so, maybe a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, but not very wide. So they made a ring around in here, and they pushed against this so that in between pulses from the cylinders firing, it would return these ramps back to the middle. Well, over time, those springs got the crap beat out of them, and they got weak. That's what's going on my bike right now. They're all weak, they're rattling, they're making all kinds of noise. It's making it hard to start the bike. It sounds like it's a weak battery. It's this rattling around in here. It's just, it's toast. So with mine all worn out, it's time to replace it with a Screamin Eagle unit, which is what Harley-Davidson started to do in 2010. Okay, so if you've got this like I do, that's the bad news. It's got a beefier sprocket type, spoke type compensator ring gear that rides on these ramps, okay? And underneath all that, here are the springs. We've got this small one, they're concentrically shaped, so they have a bit of a cone shape to them. So it starts with this one on top. Then we've got these two medium-sized ones. See, they're almost like cymbals on a drum set. See how they go together? And they make a spring, so they've got an area in there to compress. Okay, we've got the two medium ones. Then on the bottom, or up against the stator hub, would be these two bigger spring. These made of spring steel, and they also are concentric, so that when they go together, there's a gap and they form a cushion, so that as the cylinders fire, they push against this ramp, and this ramp in turn pushes down each time the cylinder fires, so it cushions the impact. It'd be almost like using an impact gun on the transmission and such, if it weren't for this compensator assembly. So the question is, I've seen a post where a guy put in a Screamin Eagle compensator set, and it was still making noise. Went back to the dealer, they put a shim in somewhere, I'm assuming on the bottom, maybe against the stator hub. And if you do swap this out, you've got to put in the stator hub that goes with the Screamin Eagle set. You can't use the original one, so the whole inner primary's got to come apart so that this stator hub can go in and everything stacks up against it. Okay. Now that being said, the shim was put in, and he said in the post it was still making noise. So he took it apart himself. He bought another set of springs somewhere. I don't know where you can buy them, maybe at the dealer. Just the spring packs themselves. But he bought a set so that he could use one of these thin outer springs, and he placed it on top of the one that was already there, and then put the whole bike back together, okay? Everything went back together. And he said the noise was gone. It was running perfectly. Well, I don't have a spare small spring. So here's the question I'm asking. What I do have that came with a box of parts, I've got a spare medium-sized ring spring, and I've also got a large one. And what I'm leaning towards is using this smaller one on the bottom. And before I get too far, let me show you an example here of all of these parts stacked up, and measure the height to the top of the primary chain teeth, okay, the top of the sprocket here. And what I've got is 2 1/4 inches. Now, let me take these parts off. I'm going to take the smallest spring washer off. And if I set this on the bottom of the stack, and what I'm thinking is the smaller size, it'll still give this bottom spring washer some give. It won't force it up as much as this larger one will probably provide more force pushing against it. But either way, let's put this back together with the medium disc on the bottom. The rest of it stacked up the way it should be. Put all this back on here, and let's see what it measures now. Okay, that's not the same picture as the first one. That's a different picture, but it's 2 1/4 inches to the top of the sprocket. So without this thin one pointed up, and putting the medium one on the bottom, which would be against the stator hub right here, it'll provide a little bit of a shim and tighten this up more against this, well, ultimately this sprocket here with, you know, the bolt assembly holding it in place, so that it'll be able to take more of a pounding, is what I'm hoping, from that 96 cubic inch motor. I mean, it's pretty much stock. It's got a different air cleaner, and I've got a Power Commander 5 fuel injector module to tune it up a little bit. But I'm not looking to race the thing. I just want reliability, and I don't want to have to keep tearing the primary chain case open to replace, you know, these parts, these springs. And I'm only saying this because so many people have been dealing with the failure of these parts that I'm looking for a way to beef it up a little stronger using this medium spring washer without overdoing it and overstressing anything. So what I want is your opinion. Would you use this medium washer on the bottom of the stack, or at least try it out? There's so very little information about people experimenting with these Harley Screamin Eagle compensators that I'm going out on a limb. I'm trying to go outside the box, I guess, and see what works and what doesn't work. Has anyone, here's the question I want you to answer in the comments, if you don't mind. I really appreciate it. Have you ever experimented with these washers, using them in different ways, or different numbers, or different types? You know, adding another bigger one maybe, or adding the 2 small ones to the top, and not just the regular set from the bottom up. Also, do you know anyone that, or yourself, that's used a solid sprocket to like a compensator eliminator? I know Twin Power makes one. There are other manufacturers that make just a solid. This is a 34 tooth unit that came out of my 2009 Road King. So do you know anyone who's using a solid sprocket and is having fine luck with that? Because what I'm hearing is it could scissor the crankshaft pin. It could thrash your transmission all apart. You know, because when these cylinders fire, it is kind of like a jackhammer. It's like an impact wrench, pounding each time that chain pulls, bang, 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 when you've got it in gear going down the road, and especially if you lug the motor down. There's so little on these on the internet. I'm trying to kind of, I guess, get a little more information available about these compensators and what can and can't be done, or what should and shouldn't be done. And if you've had experience with these and something worked good for you, let me know. If you don't think this will work, removing this small spring from the top, which seems to be the weakest spring, it's definitely the thinnest. I don't know if you can tell, but these are about 1/8 of an inch thick. And the small one's about 1/16 of an inch, about half the thickness of the others. So if I remove this thin one and instead start off the stack with this medium spring washer on the bottom, put the rest of them on top of it, and reassemble the compensator on the shaft, and torque everything down to 150 to 165 foot-pounds. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, okay? Hey, I want to thank you for watching, your opinions, and also if you're a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, go ahead. I've got more stuff like this I plan to upload in the future, including tearing that bike down and replacing this stuff, seeing how it goes from there. If nothing else, wish me luck.